Over the last few years, I've spent time thinking and working on what school systems and stakeholders can do to ensure that every child studying in these schools is empowered to transform his or her life in a way that they feel best. And the answer for me lay in changing a commonplace question which most educators have, which is how can we teach better? So instead of this question, just shifting to thinking about what are we really teaching for? Are we teaching so students can learn academic content, or are we teaching for them to become more emotionally cognizant, or for them to build better and lasting relationships? Or is it all of this and more?
The real aha moment actually for me came after that, when I met a mentor who was helping me, my own mentor who trained me to work with young people and become a mentor to young people. And she said that my role in her life, in my mentee's life, is really to help her build these skills and not to judge the choice that she made. So it's not for me to judge that because she built her ability to make choices, to be confident, she chose to leave home. It's for me just to offer these skills to her so that she can make choices and then trust where she goes with it.
So for us, we have these assumptions that sit underneath this. So schools have always historically been, in my view, have always been about academic and social. They always have been. The very earliest schools in the history of time were never just about learning rote. And we've got into a very odd situation where we kind of believe they were. It's never been the case. So that is the first assumption I start from. The second assumption is, and I think this is a distinction between those people who think what you've got to do in education is pass on information that older generations had. And that is important, but that is the difference between accessing the world, being able to read the New York Times. People say that's important. Well, okay, that's only half of it. It's what you do with the information that you get from the New York Times and how you respond to that. And then I think schools are the best places for innovation. Young people are the most agile people. They have ideas and thoughts. And so schools need to sort of harness that to help them. And then, of course, this was last year. These are our year 10s. They were very exercised by the climate crisis. And this is them going into London, being part of the protest. So that's my philosophy. And why I think it's head, heart and hand. So there's a terrible diagram, but the head, heart and hand. The head is about what they've learned, the information that they've got. And so to understand the climate crisis, they need to know the science. They need to understand the relationship between economic growth and all of that, and the history of that. But they also need heart. They need to kind of connect with people, build relationships, have confidence, build resilience. And hand, they need to make it happen on the ground.
As an educator, I think a practice that I've always held true to myself is anytime I walk into the classroom, try to experience the classroom like a child. And that's the only thing you can really do to help the teacher, whether you're coaching or whatever you're doing, is to experience what the child might be experiencing. I always have like 5 senses I put on in any observation chart that I make, like how am I feeling? Is the weather hot? What am I trying to see? There are only 3 fans working in the classroom. So I try to just think of what's the child going through. Just a school rooted in listening. Usually it's the opposite. Like there's a lot of, when the listening is lost, it feels like the school or there's a sense of authority or the power to tell or to, that then there needs to be a role that they have to play as with higher power. So I would remove that higher power role. So listening deeply, and with that essence of removing a sense of power from the schooling system of educators would be vulnerability, practicing vulnerability.
The first thing that came to my mind was when I reimagine schools, what is actually a school? I mean, school is not really that building or that infrastructure there, right? School is, to me, people, right? And therefore, if we have to reimagine schools in some way, I think we have to reimagine people. And when we have to reimagine people, we have to reimagine ourselves. So we're not asking the teacher just to acknowledge the inner world of the child and say, okay, you go to the classroom, understand the emotions of the students, etc. While we don't focus on the teachers at all. It's almost like the teacher or the educator experiences this well-being for herself. And when she does that, automatically she is compelled, when an educator's awareness is heightened or strengthened, is when she's able to engage with the child with a lot of compassion, right?
How do we change narratives in education? And that is where I want to say that it just doesn't rest with our imagination and with teachers and their ability to do it. There's a systemic mindset shift that we need. And every one of us in this group, everybody who's listening, parents, education officials, academicians, research agencies, departments of education, and MHRD, everybody, we need to take accountability that we are not preparing children for this crazy, unpredictable world. If we want to change this narrative and we want to make this the future of education, we must think beyond the classroom and look at what are some of the systemic barriers that are coming in the way of that. And for me, one of those things, if there's one thing I would shift to answer the previous question, is that we reimagine success and we look at success much more broadly, and we look at what do we need to do in education to help young people thrive in this fast, unpredictable, uncertain world.
Just slowing down is a good place to start.